What's up, guys? Today we're going to be doing a comparison between all three of the brand new pulse rifles. Well, one of them's reissued. Two of them are technically reissued, actually. Okay, we're just going to be doing a little review of the three pulse rifles that were introduced and reintroduced this season. And we're going to start off with the Forge's Pledge, which is the Iron Banner one, which a lot of people were excited about because it was an adaptive frame until they realized the big glaring issue with it. Now, on paper, this weapon looks fantastic. It can roll lots of great barrel perks. It can roll tac mags, steady rounds, accurized. In the first slot, it can roll heating up, surplus, tunnel vision, and in the second, it can roll rampage, multi-kill clip, elemental capacitor, and it can even roll iron grip. Now, the only issue with this is the fact that the red dot sight is really terrible, and the dot will sometimes be off-center, and it's not very accurate, especially if you're strafing or moving around or anything like that. The only way that I've seen to counter this, and this is even on PC, Zen Moment does actually help with this. Despite the controversy around Zen Moment only really being visual, this still helps a lot because this is purely a visual bug, and that's what's gonna, cause you to run into some problems with accuracy and hitting your shots in PvP. You're also going to want steady rounds, stability masterwork, and I'd say probably something like elemental capacitor to further increase your stability in the last slot. But if you get something like heating up, surplus in the first slot instead of Zen Moment, that might not be bad. I don't know for sure though, and I would definitely throw on counterbalance stock for this. But the sight is just a huge issue, and the gun itself does not feel good enough, especially on PC, to justify using it. Another pulse rifle that was introduced this season, though, that is definitely my favorite is the Darkest Before. You can grind it from Prophecy. It drops from the last encounter, which is farmable. You can get either the shotgun, or an armor piece. And I know a lot of people are trying to get the shotgun with elemental capacitor, which is fine and all, but I personally really like the way this pulse rifle feels. I like the way it looks. It shades really well. It can roll armor-piercing rounds, high-cal rounds, and ricochet rounds, which are very nice. In the first slot, you can get Subsistence or Overflow, which is really nice. You can also get Quick Draw, which, despite the fact that it was nerfed, it does still feel really nice on this thing. And in the second slot, you can get Rampage, Full Auto Trigger, and Elemental Capacitor. Now, my personal favorite roll is Quick Draw and Full Auto Trigger system. I use that in PvP on occasion, and it feels really nice. This is a rapid fire frame, though, so some people might not like Full Auto with it. They might want to go for something like Elemental Capacitor to boost that stability, which I can totally understand. This thing doesn't really seem to have any downsides. It's got much better stats than every other rapid fire in the game, I believe, except Jurassic Green has one more aim assist, so do with that what you will. Jurassic Green is this year's Festival of the Lost reskin weapon, which there's nothing wrong with that. I really like the designs that they do for the Festival of the Lost reskins, and I like that they reprise older weapons that don't see any use at all anymore, especially since sunsetting has taken effect. But the Jurassic Green does not really bring anything to the table. It's got worse stats in every single column except aim assist than the Darkest Before, which is another energy pulse rifle, and it's arguably a lot easier to farm because you don't have to do anything tedious like grind candy or spectral pages or whatever. You get actual rewards from grinding the last encounter of Prophecy, and this gun has some good perks. It can't roll accurized in the mag slot though, which is very disappointing, but in the first trait slot it can roll Subsistence, Heating Up, and Rangefinder, which almost never rolls in the first slot. It can roll Frenzy, multi-kill clip, and Dragonfly in the second slot. Now for PvP, something like Rangefinder multi-kill clip or Heating Up multi-kill clip, yeah, that's fine. Even if you get like Heating Up Frenzy, that's not bad either. But again, the stats are still terrible. Now, this thing could become much better in the future.
Best pulse rifle ever.
I do know that Adrenaline Junkie is getting a buff. DMG tweeted it out, and then they put that in the TWAB this past week. So if you have a roll with something like Rangefinder Adrenaline Junkie, or Heating Up Adrenaline Junkie, even Subsistence Adrenaline Junkie, make sure to save that in your Volt just to see whether or not it makes this gun really good. Who knows, it could make it better than Darkest Before. I personally don't have a lot of hope for that, but people have been wrong before. Last year, 450 RPM auto rifles were in a terrible spot, so nobody really cared very much about the werewolf or the horror story, but now they definitely have been making a bit of a comeback due to the 450 buff, so it's not something you should overlook, but it is definitely just not a good option compared to pre-existing options, especially when we have things like the Messenger or No Time to Explain, Graviton Lance, which, yeah, 2 of those are exotic, but there's still no reason to use this pulse rifle over any of those, given how much better they are, just without having to grind for a good roll or anything like that either. If this thing were more easily obtainable and you didn't have to do any grinding for event currencies, maybe people would like it a bit more. And I'm not trying to go with just the default excuse of, oh, well, Darkest Before is better in every way, but it is, and so that makes it seem kind of pointless to grind something like this out unless you just really like the way the gun feels, which if you do, props to you. It's got the same sight as Multimach, so a lot of people might like that. You can even pair it with Multimach, which is really nice. So yeah, these guns aren't bad, they're just not great. The Darkest Before is really good compared to both of the other 2 pulse rifles, but pulse rifles also aren't really on top right now. Rapid fire frames do have a really fast time to kill. I believe it's 0.7 or 0.5 depending on the roll that you get and the damage buffs that you have, which is really nice, but hand cannons still outclass them, DMT still outclasses them. So it is a little bit weird trying to figure out if you should grind for something like this. Personally, I think you should, just because it gives you something to do during the event, and the rest of the stuff for the event is pretty easy to grind out, but that's just me. I hope I give you guys like a little bit of insight towards which rolls are best for this and whether or not you should actually go for it, because I know that I struggle with stuff like that during events, whether I want to actually grind for something or not. Like Compass Rose, I didn't really want to grind for it. I just happened to get good rolls and got lucky, but also it looked really cool and it had really good perks, so it was worth grinding for if you actually wanted to. This, on the other hand, just does not feel the same, but I wouldn't write it off just yet due to the impending Adrenaline Junkie buff that we still don't have a fixed date on, so throw it in your vault and just forget about it till then if you do get a good roll with Adrenaline Junkie. But I'm not trying to drag this video on too long or anything, so I'm going to end it here. If you guys did make it this far, thank you. Leave a like, don't forget to subscribe or whatever. And yeah, I'll catch you guys in the next video.